Hey, it's Jonathan with LTP Property Maintenance, and we're going to be talking about plants in this video. So it's going to be specifically how to tend to your plants with watering and making sure that they're getting established in their new home well. So we have a variety of plants here in different sizes. We'll kind of walk through briefly the watering requirements of each one, and then I'll give you an example of how to properly water your shrubs and plants. So over here we have a bed of annuals, and these are going to be especially sensitive to variations in water and temperature. So you want to stay on top of these. Typically, you're going to need to water them more often than the rest of your garden because they're so tiny, their root systems are so small, the soil is going to dry out here very quick and they'll be affected very quick. Easy way to tell if you're watering a plant sufficiently, this goes for annuals, perennials, and bushes and trees. You'll take your finger, go into the soil. If you have mulch, you'll want to pull back that mulch layer first. If you just have exposed soil like we do in this annual bed, you can just stick your finger in the soil. You'll want to go close to the root system of the plant and stick your finger down about 1 to 2 inches. You're just looking to feel if there's some moisture content down there. If it feels cool and damp down there, you're good to go. You don't need to water anymore. That's the perfect amount. If it's dry, you're gonna need to water. If it's sopping wet, you're gonna need to hold off on watering. You're over watering. A good gauge as well from a visual standpoint is if you have some dirt that is stuck to your finger from you sticking your finger in the soil, that's a good sign that you're watering the proper amount. If you go in and your finger comes out soaking wet, or it's suctioned in there, or you can't get your finger in there at all because the soil has just become compact and hard from not being watered, then those are both signs that you're either underwatering or overwatering. Moving on to watering times, your annuals are going to be pretty quick and you're gonna wanna do them on a very light setting, preferably like a mist or a very light shower for about 30 seconds. Moving on to the next size up, this is a 1 gallon size perennial. You'll want to water these for about 15 seconds, and I'll show you the proper speed at which you should be watering and style you should be watering. But about 15 seconds on these guys. A 3 gallon size shrub, which is the most common type of shrub that we plant, you'll want to be watering closer to 30 to 45 seconds. And then the size up from that would be a 7 gallon, which you'll want to be watering closer to about a minute. And the scale goes up from there. So if you go to a 15 gallon, a 30 gallon, 45 gallon, it'll go up incrementally. Typically by a 30 gallon will be about 3 minutes, a 45 gallon about 4 minutes, so on and so forth. In terms of inspecting the plant to make sure that you're watering properly, the visual test as well, where you want to just be inspecting the foliage. So on something like a boxwood or an azalea that just have a plain green leaf, it's especially easy to see that if you have some yellowing or some browning coming up, a lot of times we'll get a call, you're worried about your plant. So if you see the tips of your plant starting to brown and become like kind of crispy and dry, usually starting from the top and working its way down and in, that's a sign that you're underwatering or it's just getting beat up too much by the sun. If you're seeing yellowing that's coming from the bottom and the interior of the plant and working its way out and up, that's a good sign that you are overwatering the plant. If you see random patches of yellow and brown around the plant, that's typically a good sign of transplant stress, and there's not really much you can do about that. It just needs to work itself out. It's typically not fatal to the plant, but it may lose a couple leaves or a branch and it will recover after the season ends and the new season begins and it pushes out its new growth. Now, in terms of watering, I'll give you an example here. We have our garden hose. You can water with a garden hose or use a watering can. If you have drip irrigation, that's already set up for you, and we have on our PDF instructions on how to water using drip irrigation. You're gonna wanna put it on a shower setting and water at a medium pace, and you'll wanna come around the plant and try and get underneath it to water the actual base. Now what that will do is water the root system, which is the only area that's going to be beneficial for watering. If you're watering the leaves, you're just getting the plant wet and it's not absorbing any of that moisture. Water only gets absorbed through the roots of the plant. Now, in some circumstances, you have a shrub like this that can be difficult to get underneath. You can water over top of it, but it's not the ideal way to water, and you are going to waste some water in the process. While watering, you want to make sure that all of the water is going to the area where the roots are. So if you're watering and you see that water is starting to spill out, and flow away from the plant. Either slow down on your watering and water at a lighter pace than what you were watering before, or you can water this plant until it fills up, move on to another plant, water this one for a bit, and when the water absorbs over there, you can come back and water this one again until you get to the allotted time that you're supposed to be watering that shrub. So overall, that is a general overview of planting and keeping up with watering your newly planted plants appropriately and being able to assess whether or not they are healthy or maybe struggling.